You may want to consider EDTA chelation therapy for yourselves. We love you. We love our people. And this is a serious epidemic problem from people who took the vaccines. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Okay, I am speaking on behalf of Brad Conley. He could not be here today, but he sent me a message to give to you, and he is representing himself when he says that I'm a victim of the corrupt Orange County family court system. So are my 3 children. I wanted to speak to you today. Unfortunately, I cannot be present since I'm at the monthly Homeowners Representative Board, the HRB, meeting at UC Irvine. On HRB, I represent professors who own subsidized homes on campus. 3 of them are politicians, Katie Porter, Dave Min, and Kathleen Tressiter. That's why I've asked someone to read my public comment to you. Here's the statement. Orange County Family Court judges Leal, Waltz, and Palafox are trafficking children to an abuser in the case of Julie Holborn, a Newport Beach mom. She also happens to be here today in the audience. I follow her case as a public court watcher. I also co-wrote a declaration and will testify to it under penalty of perjury. Julie's representative, Supervisor Katrina Foley, knows that what I'm saying is true, and so do the other 4 supervisors. OC moms are dying. Why is it so hard to protect and raise children in Orange County? For the record, since 2007, I've lived in University Hills 92617 in the city of Irvine. And he said thank you, and once again, his name is Brad Conley. Now, Julie has been before this board before, and she has spoken to you regarding the disastrous situation that her children are in after being turned over to their father, who was an abuser, and he was also doing incredibly ugly stuff. I've met him. The first time I met him, he handed me a cease and desist letter that threatened to, he was threatened to sue me for being present at the court. The guy's a psycho. I don't know why anyone in their right mind would turn children over to this psycho man. Now, Julie can explain more of her circumstances when she comes up, but you people need to listen because this is deadly, it's dangerous, and the children of Orange County are suffering. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
After Susan, the next 3 speakers are Kate, Michelle M., and Julie Holborn.
Hello, my name is Susan Stivers. I'm a licensed psychologist and registered nurse. I've worked in Orange County for about 30 years in mental health counseling. First of all, I'd like to thank
Robin.
Supervisor Doe.
Hold on a moment. Timer. Got it. The timer was blinking red. It hadn't started.
That's okay. I'm not going to be
Continue.
that long.
No. Go ahead.
I'd like to thank Supervisor Doe for bringing up the agenda item about the flags. And I'd like to thank Supervisor Chafee and Don Wagner for supporting that. I'm also here about, the Voters' Choice Act. We've kind of talked about that at length. But we looked up the history of the voting on the Voters' Choice Act. And I believe it was in 2017 and 2018, Supervisor Doe and Todd Spitzer voted against the Voters' Choice Act because they said we had great voting turnout in Orange County. We had 73% turnout for 10 years prior, and we didn't really need it. The board was changed. Neil Kelly brought up the Voters' Choice Act again in 2019. He had 23 witnesses here supporting it, but nobody opposing the Voters' Choice Act, which I think was kind of interesting. Anyway, since we've had the Voters' Choice Act, as you supervisors have heard for months and months, people are very unhappy, and we've lost our vote of confidence in our elections. So what we are proposing is to go back to precinct voting. And what I'm suggesting is for a resolution to be put on the agenda just to go back and study what would be, the implications of bringing back precinct voting with the financial costs and the strategy and all that. That's it. Just to look at going back to precinct voting, because that's where we felt our elections were secure, with independent parties in our neighborhoods checking in the people to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello again, Kate. So I am going not to speak. I'm going to let some people speak. And I just want my vote to count, one-day voting, voting in precincts, counting in precincts, and go.
To look at all the voting machines. Every Secretary of State needs to be, assisted in making sure that they are not being hacked and attacked.
I continue to think that our voting machines are too vulnerable.
Researchers have repeatedly demonstrated that ballot recording machines and other voting systems are susceptible to tampering.
Even hackers with limited prior knowledge, tools, and resources are able to breach voting machines in a matter of minutes.
In 2018, electronic voting machines in Georgia and Texas deleted votes for certain candidates or switched votes from one candidate to another.
The biggest seller of voting machines is doing something that violates Cybersecurity 101, directing that you install remote access software, which would make a machine like that, a magnet for fraudsters and hackers.
These voting machines can be hacked quite easily.
You could easily hack into them. It makes it seem like all these states are doing different things, but in fact, 3 companies are controlling this.
It is the individual voting machines that pose some of the greatest risk.
There are a lot of states that are dealing with antiquated machines, right, which are vulnerable to being hacked.
Workers were able to easily hack into an electronic voting machine. It was possible to switch votes.
43% of American voters use voting machines that researchers have found have serious security flaws, including backdoors.
We know how vulnerable now our systems were. I know the hackathon that took place last year, where virtually every machine was broken into fairly quickly.
I actually held a demonstration for my colleagues here at the Capitol, where we brought in folks who, before our eyes, hacked election machines, those that are being used in many states.
Aging systems also frequently rely on unsupported software like Windows XP in 2000, which may not receive regular security patches and are thus more vulnerable to the latest methods of cyber attack.
In a close presidential election, they just need to hack one swing state, or maybe 1 or 2, or maybe just a few counties in one swing state.
I'm very concerned that you could have a hack that finally went through. You have 21 states that were hacked into. They didn't find out about it for a year.
Right now, we have over a dozen states that either don't have any backup paper ballots or only have them partially. You think that our adversaries don't know what those states are? Of course they know what those states are. And if we have a close election, in the general election, in a presidential race...
So this is a Democrat and Republican problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Michelle Morgan again. On May 9th, I stood before this board to discuss additional sums of money that would be allocated to the Orange County Superintendent of Schools for mental health issues that had already received $7.6 million in 2022 for mental health. I alerted this board about the alarming subject matters presented to our children. Many of those issues were related to content such as SEL, DEI, CRT, and sexualization of our students. After many constituents made comments that day regarding this matter, Ms. Foley had the audacity to call her constituents crazy and told this board and its audience that this was not happening in our schools. Not only was that highly offensive, but it was not true. I would like to draw your attention to the projector. This is one example of the material that is in public schools in this county.
Is where the prostate is. So you don't have to go inside the booty hole. You can actually just push on the seam, and that stimulates the prostate gland as well. And that, they apparently really like that. But yeah, so that's why for male and male, anal sex is still very pleasurable because of the fact that it hits the prostate, and there's a lot of nerve endings in your booty as well. So the girls, the G-spot, prostate, they're the equivalent to each other, but apparently that's why if you ever see, like, I mean, Target has them now, sex toys. If you go to Target, seriously, if you go to Target and go where the tampons and pads are, they just look like a little box, but if you open up, there's like a Velcro front to the box, open it up, and then bam, sex toy. And you'll see them.
This is what our students are hearing in the classroom. I wanted to be sure the public record is clear. We are not crazy. This and many other inappropriate and offensive subjects are in our schools. And surely it's impacting the mental health and wellness of the student population, many of which we saw sitting in here today, that are wanting to have a flag hung when we actually need to give grace and care and love to those people. It's this subject matter at a young age that study after study after study have shown and proven when they are impacted with this materials at a young age, it actually twists their brain. So I'd just like you to consider the fact that this is all in our schools.
Mr.
Thank you
Chairman,
very much.
Mr. Chairman, what school is that? Ms.
Supervisor.
Morgan, what school is that?
This is El Dorado in North Orange County.
Okay. Did you report that to the school district?
Actually, the superintendent handled it.
Okay, there you go.
Next speaker, please.
After
Next.
Julie Holborn,
All right, got it. Next speaker,
after
please.
Julie Holborn, the next three speakers are Eileen McDermott, Brian Kay, and Brad.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Supervisors. I've spoken here a few times now. You are aware of some dates that I've given you of failure to protect and public corruption that are impacting my family, my children and I, and our safety. And it has to do with Orange County Family Court. There's a really serious problem. Oh. Hi, can you, better? Sure. It's a very serious matter, and we're seeing this issue all over the state with kids like Maya and Sebastian. We're seeing it in the nation with women like Catherine Kasanoff. She's the New York prosecutor who just took her life, blaming what she had experienced going through in family court. Also, Ty and Brenly, William and Emmeline, and Macy. And if you don't know those names, you need to Google them and find out what's going on. Because in every one of those cases, just like mine, the minute that we started reporting abuse to family court, they came back with the #1 comeback, which was parental alienation, to cover up the abuse and then punish the reporting parent, which in this case is me and all those other people there that I just listed. Catherine Kasanoff, Maya and Sebastian, Ty and Brenly, William and Emmeline, Macy, and the multitude of others that I'm not mentioning. This is happening to, and it's a very big problem in California. And when they are also using the term parental alienation, it is something that is called a pseudoscience that's been refuted by science. It was coined by the gentleman, Mr. Gardner, who is no longer living with us, and has been refuted. In addition to that, they are then taking kids away from the protective parent, placing them with the abuser, and putting them in reunification therapy and camps, which, if you're aware of what Peaky's Law is, that's sitting in the assembly right now. And this is what's happened in my case. I'm a mom who had sole legal custody and primary physical custody until November of last year, when the new judge took away my custody, put me on monitored visitation, put my kids into reunification therapy, And I have no contact with my kids because now I can't afford monitored visitation at $200 a week, in addition to the fact that my ex-husband owes me $80,000 in past due support, and DCSS still has done nothing to file contempt on that. And my children have not seen their grandfather since November, or their brother since November. And I have had no contact with them. And even the judge has said multiple times that this parenting plan isn't normal. And I'll tell you, it's not normal. It's devoid of law. And you need to step in and do something, because my children are now 100% in the care of somebody who was deemed a perpetrator of domestic violence no less than twice. I need you to get involved. My children need you to get involved today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. I wear my shirt very proudly. This is my president. But I want to thank you for recognizing God as our creator. And I know he's going to move soon. On November 3rd and 4th of 2020, our country had a great injustice against American people. January 7th, 2021, 388 in the U.S. Congress committed treason by certifying the United States presidential election. We have brought to you ballot trafficking evidence and evidence thereof, drop ballot boxes to further ballot fraud, multiple day voting, no voter ID to check voter eligibility to vote, voter machines proven to be fraudulent by the CEO of Dominion Voting Machines,